Hey there, my name's Pete and I like pictures. Welcome in Lightroom again, and in this video let's take a closer look at the export dialog in Lightroom, because after you process your photos you want to do something with them. And you know that everything you do within Lightroom does not change your photos that you have on the disk. So that is a really cool thing. You always have access to the original shots and you can undo everything. But of course you want to have a photo with the edits you made. So this is very simple, either in the library or in the develop module. Right click on the photo, go to export, and you see it starts with export with previous, and there are a couple of presets here. Some of them are shipped with Lightroom. These are the Lightroom presets. In case you have kind of plugin installed, there might be some output presets for that very plugin. You have presets. All of those here below that are presets I made myself for various things. You see, I have a folder with my Tumblr presets for my blog T-Boom, landscape presets, or pictures that are shot in landscape mode, or pictures that I shot in portrait mode, the portrait preset. I have the same two other presets for my other blog, my main blog, The Vortex of Our Minds, also landscape and portrait, and I have a preset for my other photography blog, T-Boom 365. These are all a bit different, and what is different with them I'll show you by going into the export dialog. And the first thing you do is let's just create an output preset so that you see what you can do. See, these are the presets we saw: Lightroom presets, DxO Labs presets, Lightroom, another set of Lightroom presets, other presets, my Tumblr presets, and some user presets that I created. Okay, if we want to create an output preset, the first thing we have to choose is what should happen with the files we created. We can either email them. You have to do all of the settings and then tell Lightroom which email program to use. I'm gonna skip that in that one because everything except the email software is covered in, or will be covered in what we do later. You can say, okay, I want to put it on the hard drive. You can say, I want to burn it to a CD or DVD, or you can say, these are plugins that I have installed: DxO Film Pack 3, Perfect Effects 8, Perfect Effects 9, one-on-one Perfect Effects, and one-on-one Perfect Layers. So these are, the picture gets rendered out, and then the appropriate plugin starts and opens that file. So it's not really important. So of course, most of the time we want to output our files to the hard drive. So that is what we choose: export to hard drive. Here we have a couple of settings. The first thing, the most important, or one of the most important things, of course, is where to save the files to. You can say export to a specific folder, choose folder later, or same folder as original photo. So if you say choose folder later, Lightroom asks you, after it rendered the photo out, where to save it to. But I want my files all to be in a specific folder. In that case, it is on my desktop, a folder called Pelenopace Tumblr. Don't ask me why. That's when I started to organize my outputs a bit better. And that's just the main folder on my desktop. And I can create a subfolder. So far it's called Untitled Export, but I say, okay, I want to have a folder inside of that folder called T-Boom. Then I can even say, okay, the outputted file should be re-imported into Lightroom and added to a certain catalog. The catalog is that catalog. In case the file already exists, what should Lightroom do? Should ask what to do? Should overwrite it? Or choose a new file name for the exported file? Overwrite without warning, or just skip it? So these three or four options you have. I usually have ask what to do, but that's just my preference. Okay, now since we set where to put the file to, let's go to file naming. If you do not check this checkbox, rename to, it keeps the original file name and the appropriate extension. You can either choose between lowercase extension and uppercase extension. Sometimes this makes a bit of a difference. Usually use lowercase. Usually can't go wrong with that. To be very honest, I don't know why this is even an issue, but okay. We can say if you choose rename to file name or rename to, you can have different things. There are presets, custom name. You add a custom name like, I don't know, we can say forest with a small o, and starting number 1 of 1 or 3 of 1. If we have selected a couple of files, then you see it's file 3 of 7, for example. Self-explanatory. Custom name, original file number, because your camera usually adds a file number. Custom name or sequence, and you see there's always an example here. That can be useful. Or just a custom name without a number, or file name and sequence, or just file name. That's what the default is, or date and file name. And the date is the date when this photo was shot. Or you can even go in here, file name, template editor, and you can do a lot of things there if you need that. I usually have set my file naming to just file name and ask what to do. We'll skip video because it's not a video. I never worked with video in Lightroom, to be very honest. Okay, now let's go to file settings. And here's the thing, that's a really crucial thing, because not every file type is compatible with every use. And you also, by choosing the image format, you also choose in which way that file will be compressed. You have JPEG, PSD, TIFF, DNG, or original. What is the difference? JPEG is kind of the standard file type that can be read by virtually every piece of software, by every browser. So that is, if you're outputting, like in my case for Tumblr, I choose JPEG because Tumblr does not accept PSDs, Photoshop files, TIFFs, DNGs, or original RAW files in that case. If you choose original, then you can basically just rename that, because you can't even resize them. It's not possible because a RAW file, you can't resize a RAW file. But we're going to talk about the image sizing in the next step. So JPEG, what do you choose with JPEG? You have the option to choose the color space. You have 3 options here, and you can even add certain profiles that are installed on your computer. If you are outputting for the web, choose sRGB, because sRGB is standard for the web. Every browser can read sRGB, can display sRGB. If you're outputting for print, it might be a good idea to use Adobe RGB. I say that if you, and it's really something because I had a couple of questions regarding that. If you have no idea what you are doing, if you have no idea what sRGB means, what Adobe RGB means, what ProPhoto RGB means, keep it at sRGB. That is a standard that pictures will look good. The color space is, maybe I have to talk a bit about that. The color space is basically the amount of different colors you have, and the sRGB color space is a bit smaller than the Adobe RGB color space and the ProPhoto RGB color space. You probably have seen it that in many cameras you can set in which color space the photos are captured. That is a bit of a misleading thing, because color space only applies to JPEGs or TIFFs. I guess you can, in case your camera can also capture TIFFs. I'm pretty sure that that also applies to TIFFs. But color space has no influence whatsoever. The color space you choose in your camera has no influence whatsoever if you are shooting RAW. The color space is only intended for JPEG, or pretty sure also for TIFF use. So it doesn't matter for the file itself whether you shot in sRGB or Adobe RGB. In case you are shooting RAW, if you shoot JPEG, that might be a different, or that is definitely a different thing, because that color space is used for the JPEG. But again, if you have no idea what you're doing, choose sRGB. I think that was enough, because I could talk about 100 years about that. Let's go to quality. The quality settings. Quality at 100 will, of course, with JPEG, you see you only have that option if you chose JPEG. If you're at 100%, this will produce the best quality, hence the name quality pictures, but also the biggest files. I personally use quality 100 when outputting for my blog, in case I have to process a huge amount of pictures and give them away. For example, I shot a wedding and I outputted, like, I don't know, 300 photos or something. For that use, I talked with the client, of course, before, and I asked them what they will use the photos for, and they said, yeah, we'll just want to show it online or send it to relatives or something like that, or just maybe make a print or something. You can, in my personal experience, but that's also something, look at that, go down until, like, I usually choose 75. That is really something you don't really see. I don't really see a difference to 100. But those files can't be really, well, if you change something with them later, so if you re-import them to Lightroom and work with them, not that perfect. So quality to 70, some even go down to 50 or something to produce really small files. Try it, what works for you. You can even say, okay, I want my files, they should not exceed 100 kilobytes or 250 kilobytes or 457 kilobytes, whatever. You can set that, restrict. So restrict that so Lightroom makes the decision for you which kind of quality is used for them. Image sizing, that is a really interesting thing. You can say, if you do not check this checkbox, the files will be outputted in that size that you see or that you have in Lightroom. So if you crop the photo, then it will use the size that your photo has, or it uses the original size of that photo. But you can even do more with that. You can say, I want to have width and height in pixels or in inch or in centimeter. That's a really cool thing if you're European like me. Output them in that size, or you can say the dimensions. To be very honest, I don't know what the difference is. Dimensions and width and height. See, I don't know. If you know what that is, tell me. I have no idea. What I frequently use is, or most of the time use if I'm working for my blog, I say the long edge of the photo. So in that case, this one should have this pixel size or pixel count. So the photo, when I output that, it will have 1080 pixels in height, and the width is set accordingly by Lightroom. And the same goes for short edge, that edge. You can even say, okay, I want to output it as a 5 megapixels file, or percentage. I want it to have at 100% or at 50% or something like that. I usually, but that is just my use of that, go with long edge or short edge. I have checked don't enlarge, because if a photo is smaller than that and Lightroom enlarges it, then the quality will be not that great. Resolution, pixel per inch, not important at all if you're outputting for the web. It's only important for print. So say you want to give your photos away to make print, and the service says, okay, give me a, well, say, let's go with width and height. Give me a photo that is 10 centimeters wide. In that case, it's then 11 centimeters, 43 millimeters, at a resolution of 300 pixels per inch or pixels per centimeter, pixels per inch. 300. I want to have 300. Maybe you have to uncheck that. I don't know. So that is something you can really set in there. Pretty cool. I go with long edge and 1080 just for that case. Right, the next thing is the output sharpening. Something I don't use at all, or very, very rarely use. You can say, okay, my photo is intended to be shown online or on screen. So you can say, I want to have a certain output sharpening for screen, low, standard, or high. Same goes for matte paper or glossy paper. Oh, my mouse is still. There's a difference between if you're printing your photos yourself, then glossy paper does not demand as much sharpening as matte paper does for various reasons. That is something, try it yourself. I don't use it at all because I do my sharpening in Lightroom in the develop module. So metadata, yeah, all those fancy information that is stored within your file. You can say, okay, I only want to keep the copyright, for example, that you can set in your camera or put into your photos in Lightroom. You say copyright and contact info only. So delete all of the fancy stuff about ISO, focal length, and aperture, and exposure time, things like that, camera info, etc. Or you say all except camera and camera raw info. You can click remove person info if you're in Lightroom CC or Lightroom 6. There's this new person tag because Lightroom now has facial recognition. You can remove location info if your camera had GPS, so the GPS data is in your photos. This might be a good idea in case you don't really need that information in the file, but you don't want people to know where your bedroom is or something like that. And yeah, write keywords as Lightroom hierarchy. You can even implement the keywords you set. Or you say all metadata and just remove the person info and location info. So that's something you can set. If you do not want to have any kind of metadata in your photo, that doesn't work. And with Lightroom, you have to use specialized software on that. If you want to know some tricks about that, then message me. There are a couple of things that you can do to remove metadata from your photos. Next thing is watermarking. All right, this is a dialogue. I really should work on that. You can put a watermark in your photo automatically. I'll make a separate video about the watermarking tool. You can just choose one of the presets you made inside of that tool. That is something huge. We're already way too long in this video. And now we come to post-processing, the last part. See, in my case, I chose portrait, my portrait watermark preset. So after export, what should Lightroom do? Do nothing, that is default, or say show me the photo in Explorer or Finder if you're on a Mac, or open that photo in Photoshop in case you have Photoshop, or these are, there's a software that you can put into the settings of Lightroom, or in other application you choose that, or go to export actions folder now. That is, these are the export actions. I'm curious what will happen. Never click that because I don't use that. So what happens? Not much. Why? It should open the export actions folder on my disk, because that's where the export actions are stored. It doesn't do that. I don't know why, but it doesn't really matter, because most of the time, oh, now it opens. See, just took a bit. I think it's because my virus or antivirus software started working, and you see export actions folder. This folder is empty, so I have no export actions in there yet. So that is the export dialog, and we can, now that we set everything, we can say add that preset, that output preset. Let's call it I don't know, you be creative, tell me something telepathically. Yeah, all right. Let's call it very creative. Who sent that? Pete's output preset. And I want to choose in which folder, one of these folders I have here, or create even a new folder. Let's call it video tutorial. Create that folder. Create it, and you see that folder is now here, and that is the preset. And we can either export that file now, which takes a bit because virus scanning is still in progress. I didn't know it was scheduled for today. Well, it's scheduled for every day, but at that time. And you see, here we are. There's another photo in there. Very cool. Why? I don't know. Doesn't matter. So this one's for today. Hope gave you a bit of an overview over the export dialog in Lightroom. Bye. Till next time. To not miss any of those videos, you can subscribe to this channel.